One of the oldest complaints in War Thunder that players had were sparking. Sparking was caused by the server client desync caused by the War Thunder server tick rate originally not being able to handle so much information at one time. This created a desync that showed clients hitting target square, but server side it would show misses. Supposedly, the Hispanos were the most notorious offenders of the sparks, along with the 50 cows because of their high rate of fire that just threw the server sync into a frenzy. Now, 6 years on, have they finally killed the Hisparko meme? For the most part, I believe they've minimized the issue to where it's barely noticeable. I can't make sweeping declarations like they've eliminated it entirely because I personally can't tell the small amounts of sparking that can still occur since my experience has entirely been fruitful as of late. The Hispano Mark II is now an actually great armament compared to its peers, only being nerfed by its failure rate which is mostly negated by the 1942 and 1943 year upgrades. Though I would have appreciated it more if the air target's belt remained stealth and omitted the single tracer round it received. Obviously, it still differs to the MG151, which, in my personal opinion, remains to be the best 20mm gun for props. Of course, for jets, you'd expect me to say that it's the M61 that's the best 20mm. But in my opinion, it's the F5's M39A1 20mm gun that remains to be the best cannon for jets because 1. Its placement in the F5 and the relatively high muzzle velocity. That, and for some reason, gunpod M61 belts are expensive in Air RB. Like really? 1200 SL for a single belt of the M61 on the Phantom FG1? Remember, you have to pay for that every time you die as well. It's just not worth it. Another problem that used to plague 20mm was awful accuracy. The M2 20mm cannon on the Bearcats and Corsair share the same problems as the Mark V Hispanos on the Tempest and Meteors. They were shotguns before you got the new 20mm cannon upgrades. They had very prominent tracers back then and you could really tell the dispersion was very awful. The dispersion was as awful then as the stock 30mm Mark 108 is now. And the Mark 108 really needs you to put that work in to aim it. But when you get a hit though, it is very satisfying. To no one's surprise, the most consistent 20mm out there were the Russian 20mm. Sure, you had awful belts like the one mostly with fragmentation incendiary belts, but if you chose the armored targets belt or other belts, you had a fine time. Paired with crazy good airframes like the LA-5FN, Yak-3P, and the I-185, it was just an overall fun experience playing the Russians. And I remember my time playing the Russians back when they nerfed the MiG-15 and MiG-15 BIS research points. It was a hell of a time. The most annoying 20mm had to be the Ho 5 cannon on the Japanese Army aircraft. It has a single practice shell on the default and stealth belts whose capabilities I'm not sure about, but made up a ton of my complaints about the KI-44 and KI-84. Currently though, as long as you pick neither default nor stealth, you'd be fine. I'm actually pretty happy that sparks are reduced to a barely noticeable issue, and we'd all need to have fixed left is the weird packet loss thing where they drag down the plane to a crash. And with that, we would probably have a great mind-numbing experience grinding out props. They also fixed stuttering today, so that's another plus. So that's credit where credit is due on Gaijin's part. Anyways, thanks for watching. As per the usual, this is the Dr. MD. Join me again next time when I get overpressured by an ATGM in a main battle tank. I promise it happened. I look for the footage, I swear to God it happened.